Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. In the module entitled Facets of Discourse, you discussed so many definitions of discourse and discourses. And you also discussed what is critical discourse analysis in brief. In this module, we'll discuss the concept of critical discourse analysis in some detail. As we understand, discourse analysis can be approached in a very general way and also in a critical way. Whereas a general discourse analysis will not go deep into hidden meanings, a critical discourse analysis would always try to reveal what is there beneath the surface of discourse. Let's now discuss the concept of CDA, that is critical discourse analysis, in some detail. People cannot be effective citizens in a democratic society if their education cuts them off from critical consciousness of key elements within their physical or social environment. In this module, we'll discuss critical discourse analysis as a method to understand a variety of texts that emerge from our social environment. The assumption of massive prominence of CDA during the last couple of decades as a discourse analytic approach has riveted as its object of study the link between language, power, ideology, and domination. To be exact, the prime focus of CDA is the problematization of covert and overt textual and discursive aspects of mainstream and dominant discourses, which lead to the production, maintenance, and perpetuation of domination and control of less powerful social groups. You can read this in detail in Fairclough 1992, Fairclough and Wodak 1997, Luke 2002, Van Dyke, Wodak 2001. To achieve this, a merger between social theoretical concepts and textually oriented discourse analysis is what is recommended by CDA. Critical discourse analysis is established on the assumption that language plays a key role in the creation, maintenance, and legitimating inequality, injustice, and marginalization in society. Language and ideology makes up the crux of this analytic approach. Fairclough 1995 tells us that CDA aims to systematically explore often opaque relationships of causality and determination between A. discursive practices, events and texts, and B. wider social and cultural structures, relations and processes, to investigate how such practices, events, and texts arise out of and are ideologically shaped by relations of power and struggles over power. Critical discourse analysis, as proposed by Fairclough 1992 and Fairclough and Wodak 1997, and social and visual semiotics or multimodality proposed by Kress and Lewin 1996, and the Birmingham model given by Sinclair and Coulthard in 1975 draw heavily upon systemic functional linguistics. As Choliaraki and Fairclough put it, it is no accident that critical linguistics and social semiotics arose out of SFL or that other work in CDA has drawn upon it. SFL theorizes language in a way which harmonizes far more with the perspective of critical social science than other theories of language. Further, CDA conceives discourse, language used in speech and writing, as a form of social practice. Describing discourse as social practice implies a dialectical relationship between a particular discursive event and the situations, institutions, and social structures which frame it. The discursive event is shaped by them, but it also shapes them. That is, discourse is socially constitutive as well as socially conditioned. It constitutes situations, objects of knowledge, and the social identities of and relationships between people and groups of people. It is constitutive both in the sense that it helps to sustain and reproduce the social status quo, and in the sense that it contributes to transforming it. Since discourse is so socially consequential, it gives rise to important issues of power. Discursive practices may have major ideological effects, that is, they can help produce and reproduce unequal power relations between, for instance, social classes, women and men, and ethnic or cultural majorities and minorities through the ways in which they represent things and position people. This is Fairclough and Woodcock, 1997. Prominent in the definitions of CDA are, among others, the notions of discourse, critical, power, and ideology. In particular, and despite a broad range of approaches and methodologies within CDA, Fairclough and Woodcock, 1997, propose 8 basic concepts which seem to be at the core of any research characterized as CDA. 1. CDA addresses social problems. 2. Power relations are discursive. 3. Discourse constitutes society and culture. 4. Discourse does ideological work. 5. Discourse is historical. 6. The link between text and society is mediated. 7. Discourse analysis is interpretive and explanatory. 8. Discourse is a form of social action. What can be observed in these basic principles is the centrality of key constructs such as discourse as social practice, the nexus between discourse and ideology, the historical dimension of discourse production and reception, and the constitutive and dialectical relationship between discourse structures and social structures and formations. Slembrook, 2001, points out that CDA came into being on the premise that first there was a need to espouse an interpretative mode of linguistic research with explanatory ambitions and to move away from the positivist descriptivism of mainstream linguistic inquiry, which had dominated sociolinguistics. Secondly, there was an urgency that language study should have a socially oriented emancipatory program which aimed to expose, challenge, and eliminate asymmetrical power relations and domination among social groups and polities. For this, you may see Luke 2002, Rezegel and Wodak 2001. Despite various significant distinctions in methodological focus and fields of interest, the emancipatory interventionist position of CDA is seen as the driving force for research by many CDA practitioners who align themselves with those groups negatively affected by social and political inequality and domination, which are largely expressed and perpetuated in and through discourse. According to Wodak et al., 1999, taking a socially neutral stance towards issues of power relations and inequality, as would be the case in much mainstream linguistic work, assists in maintaining an unjust status quo. For this reason, CDA proponents, according to Kress, openly acknowledge the political nature of their work, since issues of power, ideology, and bias in texts manifest themselves in the realms of public discourse. Van Dyck, 2001, holds that CDA is a discourse analysis with an attitude of opposition and dissent against those who abuse text and talk in order to establish, confirm, or legitimate their abuse of power. Take, for instance, the following advertisement text of a Tetra Pak published several years ago in Indian magazines. We can see how the discursive practices ask the receivers to take the text on its face value without contesting the hidden ideological intent and hegemonic desire of the producers of the message. So the advertisement that I talked about goes something like this. Your husband comes home tired and hungry. He bites into a homemade samosa and holds his stomach in agony. You don't know it yet, but the oil you use has shown its effect. Is this the oil you will continue to use for your family? What do you think is happening here? You may note that the advertisement addresses women and presupposes that men are bread earners and go out to work, and that women stay at home and work in the kitchen. Couched in a craftily manipulated visual, this simple ad clearly suggested that all representations encode a viewpoint and ideology, even if their linguistic patterns claim an apparent neutrality, certainty, and truth value. Here, knowledge of the language would mean the understanding readers and hearers may have or may develop as to why something has been selected at the cost of rejecting others. It is the discoursal function of language which meets conditions of production and reproduction of social, historical, and cultural life required in the maintenance of power struggle through the rules of exclusion. Take the following examples. A. Demonstrators shot or demonstrators shot by police. B. Police shoots demonstrators. C. The rubber bullets fired to control the situation killed many demonstrators. In B, agent of the action, police is placed in the prime position and the active verb shoot attributes the action clearly. In A, agent has been deleted or backgrounded by the passivization of the verb form. Here, it is the recipient of the action, demonstrators, who are the focus and appears almost to be responsible for events. In C, the agent is an inanimate object, the rubber bullets. While one can see the necessity and importance of critically oriented discourse analysis in sensitizing awareness of how language works in relation to issues of power and domination, it is important not to underestimate the valuable contributions of non-critical mainstream linguistic research to the study of language. In fact, much critical linguistic research has drawn on various tools of inquiry and theoretical work which originated and have long been used in non-critical linguistic work. Critical discourse analysis is not a single method or a unitary approach, but tends to be thought of as an umbrella approach within which different research paradigms can be used for the analysis of text and talk. Van Dyck, 2001, sees critical discourse analysis as a critical perspective on doing research which can be employed together with other disciplines and approaches. Some of the most prominent CDA versions include critical linguistics, given by Fowler, Hodge, Kress, and True, 1979, and then Hodge and Kress, 1988. Then we have mediated discourse analysis, given by Scollin, 2001. Then socio-cognitive discourse analysis, that is Van Dyck, 1991. Then discourse as a method in social scientific research, given by Fairclough in 1989, 1992, and 2001. We have social semiotics, given by Hodge and Kress, 1988, and then discourse historical method, given by Reisgel and Wodak in 2001, and then Wodak again in 2001, and then Wodak in 1999 earlier. Wodak contends that given the complexity and the multidimensional nature of the interplay between discourse practices and social structures, a multidisciplinary approach based on CDA can effectively uncover various facets of such relationships. Thus, methodological paradigms informed by CDA have drawn on various analytical categories from systemic functional linguistics, pragmatics including speech act theory, conversation analysis, social semiotics, rhetoric and argumentation theory, among others. Also, these paradigms incorporated social theoretical concepts and notions essentially borrowed from and influenced by neo-Marxist, post-structuralist, feminist and post-colonial studies. Thus, a wealth of research in CDA has spawned diverse areas such as racism in the media, as you can see in Fowler 1991 and Van Dyck in 1991, racism, anti-Semitism and national identity in Reisgel and Wodak 2001, Wodak 1997, Wodak et al. 1999, and media discourse, for example, Garrett and Bell 1998, commodification of educational discourse and media discourse, Choliaraki and Fairclough 1999, Fairclough 1992, 1993, and 1995 again. Language in education and pedagogy, for example, McClure 2003, then Political Discourse, Fairclough 2000, and Organizational Discourse, Wodak 1996. And Luke contends that to tie together all these CDA analytical models into a coherent political project remains the task at hand, given the tendencies among proponents of some models for an overall rational grand theory, while other practitioners remain skeptical of any attempt to canonize and regularize procedures and methods within CDA. However, recent contributions to CDA have advocated multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary approaches and methodologies. See, for instance, the volumes by Wodak and Chilton 2005 and Wodak and Meir 2001. Also see Choliarake and Fairclough 1999. Two of the most prominent versions of CDA drawn upon in much critical research include Fairclough's 1992 and Van Dyke's 2001 models, which we will discuss in the next module. Now I would like you to go through the animation here. Can you see the man and the son and the daughter talking? To son, come and help me wash the car, mother. Daughter, I'll help you, daddy. Man, you don't bother. You help your mom in laying the table. Mother will help me. Daughter, I don't want to lay the table. I want to wash the car. Man, no, that's not your job. Can you see that society ascribes certain roles to males and certain others to females? All those who accept these social roles as normal help to maintain the social status quo. So what do you think is happening here? This is self-explanatory. This suggests that society ascribes certain roles to males and certain others to females. All those who accept these social roles as normal help to maintain the social status quo, the prevalent stereotypical roles that go a long way to boost the ideological and unequal power relations in society. By now you must have understood that critical discourse analysis can be used to study a variety of topics such as sexism, racism, immigration, crime, stereotypes, and so on. The instances that we discussed in this module were actually instances of sexism. And by now you also must have understood that's important. And I'm sure you understood that it's important to have some critical orientation so that you can read between the lines. In the next module, we'll discuss two prominent approaches to critical discourse analysis as given by Fairclough and Van Dyke. Thank you.